Did you guys see the Wall Street Journal article on podcasters?
Yes.
You know, everybody wants to be a podcaster today. Do you know how many total podcasts there are worldwide? Total number of podcasts.
Worldwide?
Worldwide. How many total podcasts worldwide? Rob, if you have that article, WSJ.
Should we guess?
Brandon, if you can send me the notes you gave me yesterday, specifically the chart. I want you to guess. Don't look. I want you to guess. How many total podcasts worldwide?
In the world?
I'm just going to go a cool million.
5 million.
5 million?
How many million minutes? How many million minutes of podcast? How many total number of podcast episodes have been done?
Oh,
150 million.
Yeah.
Holy.
Okay.
So 5 million, 150 million. Okay.
150 million podcast episodes have been done, right? These are stats of podcasts. But Wall Street Journal did a great article. There's 500 million listeners you're competing with. That's the podcast listeners. 500 million. And you know what the sponsorship money right now is on podcast, Tom? You know how much money of sponsorship goes to podcasts right now? It's not a lot of money. What do you think it is?
Percentage
Just take a wild guess. Total dollar amount, U.S. podcasts.
Per episode?
No. Like total dollar amount per year sponsorship given a podcast.
Oh, a year ago we crossed $1 billion, so I'm going to say $1.5 billion globally.
Good number, $3 billion, okay? Wow. And so a lot of people are looking at this deal, well, I'm going to be the next Rogan, I'm going to be the next Call Her Daddy, and all this other stuff. Right now, the top 3 podcasts on Spotify, I think, are Call Her Daddy, Tucker, and then Rogan. Right now, if you go on Apple and you look, if you go to Chartable, Rob, if you go to Chartable and you look at the top podcasts, Brandon, again, if you can send that article, there was a couple things there. And then, by the way, this was the other thing with Pew Research, which was freaking insane. What do you think are the top, like what topic is 25% of all top podcasts? What topic?
Murder, mystery?
Crime.
People love murder.
That's right. Crime was 24%.
Women.
What topic you think is number 2?
Wasn't it crime, comedy, news?
No, it's not. No.
Politics.
Nope. Politics is number 2 with government. Rob, I'm going to give this to you, and I'm going to drop it on your computer. This is a must-see. These statistics are absolutely insane to look at because it's revealing so much on what's working and what's not working, what the audience is interested in, and what they're not interested in. Brandon, I'm trying to get that one about the top 10, where 34% of this gets this, 13% of viewership gets this, 13%. I know the numbers, but if you have it, I want to show the visuals. Rob, if you can show this. Check this out. So here's what it looks like. 24% is true crime. 10% is politics and crime. Zoom in a little bit. 9% of podcasts are entertainment, pop culture, and arts. 8% is self-help and relationships. Then it's 6% sports, 4% history, 2% money and finance, comedy, religion, all at 2 points. Science and technology 1, health 1, multiple topics 20, and other is 12%. Now, here's a crazy thing. The stat. You ready? Check this out. Out of the 500 million views that people get, out of the 500 million monthly listeners that they're competing for, do you know what percentage goes to the top 10? Tom, it's a very interesting stat here. Out of the 500 million listeners you're competing for, what percentage of the 500 million you think goes to the top 10?
Is it the Pareto principle, like 80%?
Brandon, if you got it, get it, and then be ready to show it in a minute. What do you think it is?
Brandon, please.
I said Pareto principle, 80%.
Okay. What do you think it is?
I think it'll be something ridiculous, 85, 90%.
This is what percentage of all the money goes to the top?
10. Don't show it yet, Rob.
To the top 10 podcasts or top 10%?
10. Not top 10%. Top 10% is 80%, but this is not top 10% top. It's the top 10. So think about it.
Oh, gotcha.
5 million podcasts. Mm-hmm. It's not 80-20 theory.
Yeah.
5 million podcasts. Of the 5 million podcasts, what percentage does the top 10 get? Not the top 10%. The top 10.
Okay.
So it's not 80-20.
I'm going to say 35%, 30%.
I think it's going to be ridiculous.
That'll be ridiculous. I'll say half the viewership.
Okay, pull it up,
10.
Rob. You're actually the one, Adam. Look at this. 35% is a top 10.
I know what I'm doing here, guys. I'm the greatest.
Did you hear this?
Yeah,
the
of course.
top 10 gets 35% of that 500 million.
Makes sense.
Next 11 to 12 is competing for the next 13%. Mm-hmm. 26 to 100 gets the other 13%. 75 of them are competing for 13%. From 101 to 500, the next 400 are competing for 16%. Then from 501 to 1,000 is 5%. You add all that up, you know what you get? That's 61 plus that is 77. That's 82%. Vinny, the top 1,000 podcasts get 82% of listenership. The other 4,999,000 get the other 18% of viewership.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's the crazy part. And when people are thinking about this, they're sitting there like, oh my God, Rogan got a few $100 million. I'm going to go, here's what I'm going to be doing. This is what we're going to be going. This is a very, very, very competitive space. But guess who all of a sudden popped up to be the number one podcaster for about a week?
And I've never even seen it. The girl.
Now, Call Her Daddy's been on for a while.
Tucker.
And she's right now doing the Olympics. Yeah. And they're interviewing her as Alex Cooper, I think her name is. Yeah. Mm. And then she on her cards, Tom, you were showing this because you follow her very closely. Her cards while she's giving.
I don't follow her. I was watching I was watching her interview with Simone Biles. And I'm like, and I'm looking at him like, why is she holding a Call Her Daddy? Like, wait, this is Alex.
Podcast is called Call Her Daddy, Tom.
Call Her Daddy.
Tucker Carlson moved up to number one for one time. Mm-hmm. You know why? You know what Tucker's doing that nobody else is doing? Even though Tucker's Tucker Carlson, he's willing to fly to Russia to interview anybody. He's willing to travel to Australia. He's willing to travel to Argentina. He's willing to travel anywhere, which means you can go compete at the highest level if you're willing to get on the road again and go meet with the folks.
Go see Putin again.
But the craziest stat of everything of podcasts, guess what was the craziest stat about all the podcasts? You ready? This was by far the craziest. Brandon, if you can find this one, on if podcasts are peaking or dropping.
Ooh.
The crazy stat, meaning are more people starting a podcast today or are fewer people starting a podcast today?
Can we guess?
Yeah, go for it.
I think during 2020, it peaked incredibly. I think everyone started we started in 2020. But there's something called consistency, there's something called persistency, and something called resiliency. And I think a lot of people have dropped off since 2020.
I think they dropped off.
Tom, what do you think?
I think we've seen peak like fintech and fads you see in venture capital. I think we've seen peak podcast starts.
Rob, can you pull that up and just show it to everybody? Check this out.
Rob.
Look at the podcasting. Yeah. Number of active podcasts peaked at around 800,000. First quarter of 2021, COVID.
There it is.
And a lot of people disappeared 6 months later. It went from 800,000 podcasts to 420,000 podcasts. Poof, they left the market. And now it's around 420,000 podcasts. People that are competing in it. It's going to be interesting to see what people do. The game's going to change. It's not something that whoever's competing today is going to be the case forever. And by the way, the whole reason why I'm showing you this last part here is just to tell you guys thank you, because on YouTube we crossed 2 million subscribers. Wouldn't happen without you. Appreciate you guys. Love you all for what you're doing. So I got an update for you. Today at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm running this webinar, free webinar called the AI Revolution. This thing is already, it only limits, we upped it from 3,000 to 5,000. It only limits 5,000 people to be on. 20,000 people have already registered to get on. That's the QR code. You will all get a 30-page white paper that we've put together. We put 300 hours into this. On top of that, I will be announcing 3 new speakers that will be at the Vol Conference at the end of this webinar. Nice. The only way you get this white paper is by you being on this webinar. The QR code right there is for you to get registered for it. Go out there and register, but there's a couple other things I want you to do. Register, and at the same time, once your name is in there, go on your phone and add it to your calendar. Reminder, not at 6 o'clock, 5:45 with a 15-minute reminder, because I know exactly what happens when we do these. While we go live, we're going to get thousands of emails of people saying can't get on, and it's because it's only limited to 5,000 people to get on. That is intentional. That's the QR code. Get registered. We have a lot to talk about. It breaks down every single time we went through a certain industrial revolution, things that changed, what the fears were, what industries were disrupted, how many millions of jobs were lost in a certain sector, and how the same thing is happening with AI. But if you don't know how to prepare for it, you're going to take a hit. Whether you're an employee, entrepreneur, executive, this is the webinar for you. Go to that QR code, get registered. We'll have that tonight, again, 6 o'clock, Tuesday, July 30th, Eastern Standard Time.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.